first very briefly to tell you why we do this. And then you guys can think about why you want to do this. Why we do this is because of people like this random Bedouin woman that we ran into in Jordan as we were working on some things. And she was, what, 70 something years old?
Yeah.
And she got so old that she couldn't work in the fields anymore. So they just like put her out to pasture, I guess. Like, you're just gone. Like, well, there's no work for you now. And we sang with her, we danced with her, we had an amazing time. Princess Tagreed Institute that we work with obviously took her in and gave her work, and it was a wonderful experience for her. But
and there was a group of these women in this.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
lots of them.
They were wonderful.
And so we look at that and we say, well, how could this lady survive? Like, literally, how does she eat? Not just help us keep track of any people who chat, because I might get caught up. Sorry guys, if I do. How do they eat? How do they feed their families? They just don't. So obviously they scrape out a living somewhere or they die, and that does happen. But we were really bothered by that. Does anybody know the Arabic culture at all?
Not really.
So
sorry, it doesn't look like you're sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm not? Oh my gosh, you guys are missing the whole thing.
Which is great.
Let me fix that right now.
There we go.
Okay, so this woman that you didn't see
There you go. Perfect.
is who I was talking about. All right, so here, does anybody know what a hijab is? It's the face covering. Culturally in the United States, we have a huge misconception about that. We look at it as oppressive. That's not necessarily how they see it, but that's not the focus of this conversation. What we want to express is that when you're that hardcore, you don't take it off ever for any reason. If you're in company that you're not your closest family, like your closest family, we're talking like sometimes not your in-laws, right? Like, your parents, your children, maybe your siblings, of course, but not really very many other than that, your closest family. So we go to this visit. We were doing some work and we were literally handing out food and things. And there was this lady here who was wearing a hijab. All of them were. They're from Yemen. And we just started talking to them and praying with them and some other things, and we gave them some food, and we had a translator. I don't know Arabic. I've since started to study it, but I didn't at the time. And we just started talking to her, and we just started telling them that we cared about them and that we love them and that we're here trying to support them. This is before English, this is before anything. We were just there. And this lady just started crying, and Diley comes over.
So we were sitting in a circle, and they had just gotten done telling us their stories, like why they were there, what their background was. And hers was, you could tell she was really struggling with what she was talking about, and she broke down while somebody else was talking. She's just over there, and she broke down, and there were I don't know, 8 of us, maybe 8 or 10 of us in the room. And I just felt this overwhelming need and desire to go to her. So, and I wasn't sure what that was going to look like culturally. Like, what does that look like? But
yeah, you don't touch them.
Yeah, I just acted on it. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I crossed the circle and I went over to her and I knelt down next to her chair and I took her hand and she squeezed my hand and the tears just flowed. And then of course my tears, I was able to just connect with her in that moment. I did not know her language. She didn't know mine. And we connected so hard in that moment. And we let everyone finish talking. And when we stood up, she gave me this great big hug. I hugged her. I spoke to her. And you could tell that even though she didn't understand me, she could feel what I was saying. And the translator kind of tried to kick in there too and try to help a little bit. But she pulled down her thing and she showed herself to me, and she was
to all of us,
me, to
which
everybody.
Is really shocking.
And we got a picture and everything, and she sunk into me, and that was why I wanted to be there. I wanted to make these connections with people that that do bridge that gap, that bridge the borders. And it was an absolutely incredible experience. And I was so grateful that I just acted on that and was like, I don't know what this is going to mean culturally, but I'm going to do it because she needed it. And it was awesome.
So we hope to answer all of your questions and help you understand that you can get a job in TESOL. But that is why we're working on this stuff, because we have found that there's a certain power or inspiration that can cross all language barriers, and it's powerful, but it's a whole lot easier if you can talk to each other. And that's what we want. We want to create a world where everyone's disunited for various reasons, in part because of language. Like, you can't communicate. How are you supposed to work together on anything? Well, if it happened that Spanish was the universal language of the world, we'd be trying to teach Spanish, but it's not. English happens to be the language that everybody in the world is starting to migrate to. And that's why we're involved in it. But it really has nothing to do with teaching English. We could care less. It's more about connecting with these people and helping them improve their lives. Very briefly, this guy was a multimillionaire jeweler in Iraq, and ISIS came to his jewelry store when he was at work and said, "This is ours now. You need to leave, and you need to leave the country." And they said, and he said, "Okay, I'll go home. I'll get my passports and my family, and we'll leave." And they said, "No, you don't understand. You don't go home. You don't get your passport. In fact, give me your shoes." And so he left with his nothing, like not even his shoes. Somehow he connected back with his family in Jordan, and now he's he has nothing, right? But he's getting back. He's getting back. That's who we want to be interacting with. That's who we want to be teaching.
But he had such a great attitude.
Oh yeah,
like, it was
fantastic.
So cool to see his attitude. He'd lost everything. He's literally starting from scratch. You would not have known his background when we walked into this very humble, very small home. And he was just all smiles and all grins and just such positivity.
Please have some coffee. Please have a cigarette. That's all I have. I don't want either, but that's great people. All right. So I feel like I promise I'll speed this up. This girl is an orphan. She was laid on a heater when she was an infant, and her head was burned because she laid there for 2 days
in an orphanage.
King Hussein at the time shows up, and he checks out the orphanage, and he says, "This is horrible conditions." He shuts it down. He took them all to his palace, and he said, "This is now an orphanage." He has many palaces, but one palace. "This is now an orphanage. Staff, figure it out." And they did. And so she grew up in that environment with no family. We are teaching her now. She's in our program. This girl, Nada, you can see how beautiful she is. Her skin was too dark, so her parents put her in the trash can, literally, as a baby. And so she grew up under that kind of circumstance. Now, very, very briefly, in the Middle East, in certain parts especially, if you don't have a family name, meaning you don't have parents, you're kind of bad juju. You're ostracized from society. People won't give you jobs. You can't get married. Like, you're just like a social pariah. So Princess Tagreed Institute, who we are working with, and I should have had anyway, it was founded because Agadir, the person we work with that works with the king and now the king's son, Abdullah, she found out about all this. She's kind of above it, and she's like, "This is ridiculous. These people are people, and they're thrown in the trash, and now they can't even get a job." So the state takes care of them until they're 18, and then what? They're out of luck. And so she formed what's called Princess Tagreed Institute, working with Princess Tagreed, right? And created kind of an orphanage or a program, if you will, for women that are 18 to 30 to help them, because they're the ones that are actually become prostitutes, or they have nothing, so they're just kind of thrown out into society with nothing. And so that's who we're working with primarily. We've got some other influential people that we do some things with, but that's our main partner at this point. So what's the problem? Well, you get it. People's life sucks, right? There's some struggles, and I don't want to paint this negative picture, because these people have hope, and they are amazing people. And I don't want to paint them as some sort of sad story. They're not. These are outstanding people, but there are some struggles. And that's what we want to come help fix. We work with a couple universities, various donors and different things so that we can send people like you to go and teach. Now, we are actually looking in hopefully if some of the things we're working on are funded, we have actual job positions coming up next year for full-time employment to do a bunch of things in TESOL. But to actually teach right now, we recruit people as internships. And you can come and it's really close to free because we have a lot of scholarships to fund it. If you're interested in Jordan and the Middle East, who do we benefit? Well, obviously all the people we're talking about. That's who our target market is. Right now we are really exclusively focused with Princess Tagreed Institute because their reach is all over Jordan. They have 14 facilities in the poverty pockets in Amman, which is the main area that we are currently. And frankly, we've only been doing this about a year and a half. So we're kind of focused right there. We hope someday someone chatted me.
Oh yeah, it was just to make sure that the video was on.
Oh, perfect. We hope someday to expand beyond Jordan and into Egypt and into even, we have people wanting us to come to Guatemala, right? And there are some similar situations there where children are malnourished and can't eat. Well, how do you get jobs? Very similar stories, right? You guys know there are people in the world that need your help. And we hope to go outside of Jordan and go to Guatemala. Someone invited me to Nepal and I said, no, I can't do Nepal right now. I need to do. So eventually we want to build, 5 years from now, if we're having this conversation, we'd say, where would you like to go? Right. Which kind of comes back to your question of what should be the main factors to consider what location to choose to teach, right? Well, if you worked with us, the main factor is this is where we are, right? But we're only one little group that started something and that's it. There are many, many organizations that teach English throughout the world, like a lot. A lot of them will pay you quite well, especially if you want to go to China or South Korea or Japan. A lot of them will pay you really well. I don't know if it's still a thing. What is it? Dan's ESL Cafe or something? Is that still a thing? Once upon a time, that was prestigious.
Randall's?
Is it Randall's nowadays? I don't know. Anyway, there are forums that you can find that post, hey, you want to go live in Thailand for free? Click here, and it's not clickbait. It's like a real job for a TESOL certified teacher, right? And then you go and you teach at some school 5 hours a day, and then you live in Thailand for free. Those are amazing opportunities. For us, we have an opportunity in the Middle East to help orphans and refugees. That's our world. But we're just one group. You guys can do all sorts of stuff, whether you want to do it for volunteer or you want to do it for money. There's not that many people that do what you do. I know that it seems like there's a lot of people that teach English, but there's the demand. You just can't imagine. The demand for profit. If you want to make money doing it, you can't imagine. We do it for free. We do it for nonprofit because we're trying to support a certain group of people in addition to supporting university students. But if you want to do it for money, great. There's nothing wrong with that. Go do some tutoring in China. That's great. And you can. There are forums that Vicky and Addison and others can connect you with to help you find outstanding jobs, outstanding internship opportunities. Absolutely. So here's my answer. What should be the main factors to consider? Well, first off, what are you really doing this for? That's why we started this and we didn't delve too deep because there's not a lot of time, but we started with why. Why are you people doing this? That's your question that you should start with. Because if you're doing this for money, that's a very different conversation on where you should go. And I have no disrespect. I'm a businessman too. I've got other companies, go for it, make money. But if you're doing this for nobility, to try to ennoble people and lift them up, you can still make money. You totally can. But it might be a different target market. You might go to the Middle East where others aren't. You might go to the depths of Guatemala where others aren't. You may not just be in Beijing private tutoring rich people. I have no judgment. Go for that. But it's a very different conversation. So I would say start with why. What should be the main factor? Why are you actually doing this? The second factor is maybe your life circumstances. Right now you're in college. Come work with us for free and enjoy a great internship and get some life experience and go somewhere you never thought you would care about. What the heck is Jordan? The Middle East, what, right? Do something interesting. Have a great life. Go for it. That's my advice. But at some point, your life will change. You'll be like, well, I have 2 kids and but I still want to be involved in this. Well, maybe I'm more of an administrator helping in a nonprofit way, but I need to understand how this all works. Or maybe I do want to teach. We're hiring probably this lady in Jordan. She just went through a Arabic program and she's in Jordan now studying Arabic. She's going to stay there and work for us as an administrator and a teacher. She has 5 kids or 6 kids. Her oldest is in high school and her oldest is staying there and living with her and her husband. It might work. It works for her. It might work for you. So I would consider your factors. And then most importantly, honestly, guys, life is too short. What are you going to enjoy? If it were me and I wanted to look at the main factor, if I have zero interest in the Middle East, I'm not going to the Middle East. But India sounds great, right? Or China. Now, I happen to love the whole world and I want to go all over the place. But if you are drawn to a place, don't fight it. Just go, right? You don't have anything to add to that?
I was just gonna,
How much time, by the way, am I supposed to take here? I don't want to go over here.
Have like an hour.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
long time. Okay. I don't want to like bore you people. So feel free to throw something in the chat. Kai, will you stop? or whatever you guys need, please communicate with me because I'll get going and you can tell. Yeah, and we can do breakouts or whatever. So anyway, go ahead, Tyler. What do you think of this? What should your main factors be to consider?
For me, I like if it is about the money, and again, no disrespect for it, that's great. But one thing that we did learn when we were just out there for the time that we were out there and the other times that Richard and another partner of ours has done, when you're connecting with them, if you're looking for connection, like I personally believe that any place that you go is going to be right for you.
Yeah,
because like all the people, like there's so many wonderful people in this world. And when you travel to those places that you only see on a map and you're in it with them in their culture and their thing, it's like you get drawn in and you realize they're people just like us. And I know we all know that, like we say that, right? But when you're really experiencing that and you're like, we're with these people and like that. So I feel like the factor is just want to be in it for the people, want to love them, want to get to know them, want to bring them joy and have them bring
even if you are
every
getting paid
single
for
one of
it.
those people. Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you're getting paid for it.
But they're all going to leave an imprint on your life and we're going to leave an imprint on their life. And so wherever you go, like if you have that mindset, I believe like it's going to be wonderful.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is there actually is money in this if you pursue it and if you take it seriously. But there's so much more than that. And at worst, you can go all over the world for very little cost and have an amazingly exciting life, like at worst. But at best, you can make a good living doing this. And I just want to convey that that's not what we do. We work with universities for internships and things, and we fund a lot of it. So it's a very affordable, awesome experience. But you're not going to get rich working with us at this point. That's not what we do. But there are those options. And I just want to convey that because otherwise, what are we sitting in this room for? You want to know that you got something going on after right, Cassidy?
Yeah.
You want to know after graduation, you have something you can do, right? Well, yes, I would believe that you do. Is it common to change base locations? I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that, but I do know people who, like for us, we do semester by semester, and people can change all they want. And then we kind of bounce around throughout a region because there are different needs or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I know people that are like in Jordan for a while and then went to Israel and then they're like, oh, I'm tired of the Middle East, went to China. Like, sure. If it were me and I were doing this, yeah, I'd change all over the place because I want my life to be cool. Like, now it so happens that we've figured out where we want to be as an organization, but me as a person, if I'm doing TESOL, I'm just following my heart, man. I'm going, right?
And I was just going to say that you might have to switch organizations.
Yeah,
to
sure.
make that happen. But because, a lot of organizations like we're going to have our bases in certain places, right? But if you just want to, if you're good with switching organizations, why not? Like,
yeah, totally.
Like, yep. That would be wonderful.
So I want to come back to these two. Can TESOL work for anything other than getting a job? We kind of just talked about it. Yeah, it can definitely work for inspiring you to travel for free, to have a good life, to build people. Honestly, your character, the way you connect with people, communicate. Who's in communication studies? You two, right? Yeah, it can work for a lot more than a job. Can you prove a skill? Heck yeah. I own a shipping company, which is so boring. I won't talk about it. And I also own some other things, but in our shipping company, when we hire somebody, if we looked at a resume that said, hey, I went and did TESOL and blah, 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 blah. And I looked at that thing. Now, granted, I'm special because I also have a nonprofit teaching English, but seriously, if I look at that and I'm like, yeah, you're an interesting person, right? I want to hear about your experiences in China. And it just so happens I need sourcing in China, right? And now I need you to maybe participate in. You lived in China. What's it like? How do I handle this culturally? Sure, I'm interested in you. Does that automatically qualify you to work for me in some capacity? Maybe not. But
We'll get you an interview.
did you prove a skill? Which is what you asked. Can it get you an interview? For me, it will. And I believe for a lot of people it can. For a lot of companies it can. Companies are looking for people who do stuff. They're looking for people who actually accomplish things, right? Your resume is just like, here's what I've accomplished. Great. Does that look like you've done something that interests me? Yeah, then I'll look at you. Otherwise, you're in a different pile, right? If I could convey TESOL, it's the same thing. People who have traveled abroad and learned, and by the way, here's a tip. When you're in Jordan or wherever you're at, you should probably study Arabic. What a wasted opportunity, or China or wherever. What a wasted opportunity for you to not get to know the culture and to learn some of their language. And then you come back with an additional skill. Maybe TESOL finances your lifestyle all around the world for a couple of years while you study a couple languages, and then you come back and get a great job. I don't know. That's for you to decide. But can it work for anything other than getting a job? Well, hang on, I shouldn't say this certain. I sure think so, right? Yeah, so we can press on. All right, so okay, so that's who we're focused on benefiting. Why are we doing this? We want to empower women. If anybody wants these, I'll send all this to you. I'm not going to read this like a school. So I'll send you the slides and I'll show you a couple other things. How will we do this? Well, we partner with all these different organizations. We want to build it in a sustainable way, blah, 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 right? What do we do? Well, we use Zoom in a lot of ways. Like, one of the things we care about is what we would call language exchange. And that's actually what we're hopefully launching in next year if we get this grant we applied for, where we're building an infrastructure to connect people from the Middle East to here. So you guys just get on and talk to them, and you learn about their culture, and you just talk to each other. And obviously it's more structured than that. You don't just get on and shoot the breeze. Although you can, because it's just to practice English, but it's also culture, it's religion, it's understanding who they are as people, it's the politics. Like, there's different things that you actually do and talk about, and it's not just like, hey, show up, right? But because you're exchanging, it's about getting to know them. Well, you can do that digitally a whole lot, one, less expensive, and two, more effectively as you're trying to reach a certain demographic. The poverty pockets are a lot easier to reach by the internet than they are flying you out and driving out to the middle of nowhere, right? So that's what we're working on next year. Now, can TESOL lead to a job? Sorry, I keep coming back to this. Yeah, we're hiring someone to go manage that. Like, to connect with universities, to recruit people as volunteers, to go to people like Vicky and say, Vicky, can I present to your class? And can I get people excited about this so that they will get on and volunteer? Or to talk to the Arabic programs. And the U is only one university. What about BYU? What about the University of Arkansas? What about Texas A&M? We're hiring someone to do that. And do you think we're interested in a TESOL person? Yeah, right? Now, we may find someone as an administrator that we believe is better qualified. We don't know. But do you think that your resume floats somewhere up on the top in that kind of a situation, even though you're not a teacher? Yes, it does. So anyway, I only share that with you because I want you to know there's more going on than just, hey, we're going to send someone to teach English, right? I'm not even going to read this, but you can look at it later if you actually want to know what we do. Everything we do, we want to do win-win-win. We don't need to read that either. All right, so let's talk about you and why you care about us, possibly. So if you want to work with us, we have figured out through donors, through through working with Princess Tagrit for different housing options. You know, we're literally guests of the royal court, so we have some perks. Different things like that. We figured out how to make this really, really inexpensive for us. Typically, if we take an intern, we say, you buy a flight and we'll pay for everything else. That's typically what we do. And the main reason we don't buy your flight is because it's super annoying. And I've had times where people are like, I tried to do it and they're like, but can I do this? And then my mom wants this, and then she wants to meet me there and I want this. And can we change the flight? And I'm like, no, look, I'm not. I just can't. So you want to work with us, and if you're a good fit, we typically fund everything. And then you buy a flight. Now, it just so happens that the U will give you probably, I'm not going to speak for them, but it's pretty sure, I've done this enough, will give you a scholarship that covers more than the cost of your flight. And so this can be a very affordable thing for you to do. What do you walk away with? Well, you walk away with some internship credit if you do it through the university. If you do it through not the university, we still are interested in you, but I can't help you get internship credit. You walk away with some skills, teaching English as a second language to people who actually hopefully we care about. You know, we have some things that we care about in terms of building a positive influence and some of this stuff. And the most important thing that you'll walk away with is you will walk away changed. That is my pitch. So it's one thing to tell you you'll get an internship credit and you'll make, you know, oh, I get to go to Jordan and I get all this crap, right? But if you take it seriously and you go and get to know these people, you will come back a changed person. And that's really what we care about. So very briefly, and then we'll answer any and all questions that you care about. I'm not going to read all this, but blah, blah. I'll send this to you. Here's the challenge. Here's the solution. Here's how we started everything, blah, 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 blah. Here's a couple things we just put for you. Here's what I would write on my resume. Something like this. Well, I was awarded all these scholarships. I implemented training programs. I created all these lesson plans. You know, I empowered students, and here's how I did it. And here's the result from that. We collaborated with executive leadership. Like if I saw this on a resume, which is what you'll get from an internship with us or others, right? Like we're just one group. There are other people you can talk to. This is interesting for me. And so anyway, that's just a little blurb. You don't have to use it. It's just, here's a sample. Here's the kinds of things that you'll be doing. And I'll send this to you. Oh,
yeah.
oh, you're not even seeing this.
I think online they're seeing it, but yes.
What?
You can duplicate your screen as well.
Oh, instead of like extend that one.
Yeah.
Let's try this again. Can you see it now? Oh, wait. Oh, I see what I've done. Hang on. Sorry, people. I apologize.
Just to click one thing and then
I was just on such a roll. No, I'm kidding. Okay, let's do this. Instead of extending, let's duplicate.
there you go.
Yeah, my apologies. All right. So again, I'm not going to read through all this. I'll send it to you. You can read it. This is again, what you might put on a resume, might be interesting. Here's kind of a roadmap of things that you could care about. Like, here's the types of things that you'll be doing. Here are a few of our strategic partners. We're using curriculum and things from Cambridge. We work with BYU quite a bit. We do actually work with we've sent several interns from the U. As far as I know, actually, believe it or not anyone from TESOL. But we have sent a few people from the U.
Maybe like from the Benyon Center or something else. It's more.
Yeah, through Hinckley. So someone will come in and then they'll talk to Hinckley, and then we're connected with Gene, and then something happens, but we haven't. Anyway, so here's a few of our strategic partners, blah, 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 blah. Here's the stuff you actually care about. This is who you're serving, right? Which is just emotional stuff to try to get you interested, but it actually does matter, right? And then here's the stuff it is real. And here's stuff you should care about on a more of a selfish level. Come see some cool stuff, man. Go to Petra, one of the 7 wonders of the world. Go check out Hercules Temple. Go to these Roman theaters. Go to Wadi Rum, which is where Star Wars is filmed, right? Go and experience something interesting in life. Go float in the Dead Sea. If you're Christian, go to all the Christian sites. If you're Muslim, there's a million of those. You're right next to Israel. If things settle down, go over there. You know, there is so much for you to do. You can go scuba dive in the Red Sea. How cool is that, right? That's the stuff I'd be doing. Anyway, I share that with you because I don't know, I think it's a cool program. If you're interested, hit us up. We'll send this to you. And did I put it in the slide? Actually, yeah. If you're interested in this before the end of this, here's a phone number. Text your name and your email address to that phone number, or mine is fine, either one. And we will email you all of this stuff and we will start connecting. You'll also want to connect with Gino from the Hinckley Institute. Why? Because you want internship credit for this. And also because I do know that there's money there that's literally just there, ready for you to have. And then in addition, we'll want to talk through on our end if you qualify for all the stuff that we're doing. So anyway, if you're interested, please text us. Let's go to lunch. Let's chit chat. Let's get to know each other. And that's about it for us. I don't know what else to ramble about. Let's just talk and ask questions and learn. Oh, but first, actually, let me see if we answered any. What other kind of employers are there? Oh, you wanted to know what kind of other employees there are. Again, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this for everyone, but for us, universities care about this, right? There are many TESOL programs that do this for profit that care about this. There are many organizations that work, and this is where I would see this as a value, even if you don't want to do TESOL, even if you don't want to teach English. There are many people who care about international experience. But international experience is a buzzword, right? Like, how do I I have some international experience because I've been to Italy. Okay. But if you've lived in the Middle East, well, maybe you should work for some oil company. I don't know. Like, you have opportunities. I'm not going to say that you're going to end up in TESOL unless you want to. You can. But there's a lot of opportunity there. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
actually.
You don't want to live in the USA. Great. I love the USA, but I love Israel and I love Jordan and I love Europe and I love, so go for it. Live your dreams. And TESOL is an unbelievably easy way to afford to do that, in my opinion. I didn't do that, so I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. I didn't go do that, but I'm in it enough to feel like it's a semi-accurate statement, right? Can you use TESOL in the professional field outside of formal teaching environments? Did I kind of talk about that, I hope?
Yes.
And what are the main factors to consider? We went into that at length. For us, we've talked about that. We've talked a little bit about how, and we've talked about, can we make a difference? Yeah. And if I left you with anything, it would be that for us. And I have no judgment for people who go to China and hire a tutor and make bank. I have no judgment against that because I absolutely love it. But can you make a difference in this world and actually make some money or a lot of money in some cases? Yeah, you can. Anytime you can go to this situation, right, that we talked about, where you're communicating with people who are suffering, or this situation where people have lost everything and you're able to talk to them as humans and not as some number on a piece of paper somewhere. How are you going to do that if you can't communicate with them? And how are you going to solve all the crazy psychotic world problems if people can't even talk? Well, you can't, right? And is English the only way? No, probably not, but it's a very good one. And that's what I hope we could leave you with, that we're proud of you, we're impressed by you, and we're excited that you're pursuing this field because it matters greatly, at least to us. Okay.